很高兴我们这次能够进季后赛了，然后这次能进季后赛呢，我们应该队员都非常高兴，因为其实，我们赛季初的表现不太好，而且形势也一直都不乐观，所以说，这对我们队伍来说信心上是很大的鼓舞。然后，整个队伍的话，我希望能在季后赛越打越好，然后能赢一个队，能拿下1分就继续拿，保持一个一直向上的这么一种精神。
Cool in his spectacular hair, take MVP in game 2. And he's saying, hey, every win boosts our confidence. Every win gets us a little bit better. Well, their backs are against the wall right now. If they don't win, they're out.
Yeah, and you know that during the mid portion of the split, they've been getting hit in terms of confidence. I know that they've been changing up their junglers, their compositions, even swapping out their coach. Formerly Ochani was their coach. Now it's the former OMG coach coming into the lineup, just trying to find any bit of strength in there. And I think in the final few weeks in the LPL is when we've seen the best of FPX. And just because of that last few weeks, they find themselves in the playoffs, so there's reason to have confidence.
And I really like what he was talking about. It was about steady improvement for the team over time. He's not looking to make leaps and bounds, but just heading in the right direction is what is good. As a veteran player who's been through so much, I think he's leading FPX in the correct direction.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to turn around off of his propulsion throughout that game 2 to at least put themselves on the board in that game 2 victory with that Aurelia. But now JD have seen the strategy. They still played their laning phase well. They still shut Alex down in the jungle. It was just Cool who was able to worm his way through the tight fist of JD's lane control that opened the game back up for them.
And also the silent Gimgoon. You know, you haven't heard of him for the first like 10, 15 minutes, and then he comes out 50% larger. Just a massive tank and a flank that he was able to make working for himself. So remember, these best of fives, they can seem long, they can really chip at you, but it actually comes in rather quickly. You feel yourself actually in a massive advantage, JD in this example, coming in at an advantage, that 1 point advantage, taking in the first game and then on that point. But what happens if they lose another game and they find themselves immediately in game 5? That's what you have to ask yourself. So you can't make any more mess ups, because the confidence that FPX is building throughout the regular season coming into the playoffs is only getting larger. It's the momentum that I want to see out of them.
And for JD Gaming, I think they have a very direct strategy into FPX. They should just pick their jungle and their mid lane duo earlier, have a really offensive combination. They're not afraid of running LeBlanc Lee Sin into anyone so far. So I think that would be the strategy that I would want to see from JD Gaming, and it shuts down Cool.
I also just want to see FPX, actually JDG, I want to see JDG ban out the Braum. I think last time we saw JDG go up against the Braum, it was incredibly annoying for them. It makes it so they actually just can't get an outright advantage in the early portions of a team fight, and have to play it a lot more slower or drawn out. And Clid ends up getting caught out off his hubris, and I think in the last game was a great example, throwing out casks really early on and just hitting a door. So I think that if they want to be able to find advantages based off the first punch, Braum is a big door to that. He actually blocks out a lot of that.
Now, JD will find themselves on red side once again. They did have side selection and chose that red side as they did in game 1. So once again, giving over that first pick, might we get to see that counter picked away, which could leave the Alistar or the Rakan?
And I'm really kind of surprised about Aurelia Blue Side coming back into the draft so heavily. 5-1 so far in playoffs. We thought it was a dead thing. It was sitting at 25% win rate a couple patches ago. Doinby really the one to bring down on this pick. But recently, it doesn't seem like people have a clear answer to Aurelia anymore.
It's also just based off the patch changes. She slightly got buffed off the consistent damage. She got Electrocute, got nerfed, so the counter picks that go up against her, like LeBlanc, actually got nerfed out pretty much in terms of outright taking the 1v1. Seems like the fans just don't like Cool, as they want him to go bald. Don't you like his hairstyle?
He's got some of correction, he has the best hair in the LPL.
Yes, he's unleashed the man bun. The man bun, which usually signals that this person is through some sort of training. He's finding a spiritual journey. He's done with that. He's ready to just take it on stage.
Question is, has he completed his journey just a few weeks ago when he stopped wearing the man bun? Or is every step a part of the journey? Every game the destination itself?
While that's a joke, I actually agree with that. He always feels like a new player when he comes on to newbie, LGD, now on FPX. He's a lot more of a fierce player. So I know that it seems like a new style to Cool every time, but it makes a lot of sense metaphorically.
Well, will he be able to provide the leadership that this team so desperately needs as once again,
Kai'Sa.
First pick Kai'Sa being looked at from FPX. Now, where's the change-up? Because as you're pointing out, Clement, that's an Aurelia ban, which leaves Alistar open for JD here, but it also leaves open the Braum, something I was alluding to just a moment ago. What do JD prioritize if they want to try to get away from some of the safety that FPX need for that Kai'Sa?
Well, they're basically reading that they don't have enough bans to really deal with it, and to be honest, I feel like Alistar is the bigger threat for Crisp. While Crisp can play defensive on Braum, he can also go offensive with the Alistar as well. So good takeaway from JD Gaming.
You just got the double whammy if you're FPX. Pick up the Braum early. Actually, just literally keep the same composition. I think JDG are overthinking this, taking out the Aurelia. You already had a good plan, and you should feel confident around Yagao's play. You made one poor mistake, but now what you've done is you've given a good laning phase to the Braum, knowing he has a melee matchup that he actually excels in. And then also, you pick a Gragas, where Clid just had problems being able to start a fight when the door was open. So now Crisp is saying, wait a minute, now I have a good laning phase, and you've given me a good team fight, I'll take both of them.
The question here is, what does JD Gaming actually get out of their red side counter picks? Because I think a lot of these problems do stem from the fact that currently on the red side on 8.16, you have to take care of the Akali. So they are a bit pinched on bans, and they couldn't really deal with the combination of Kindred and Braum. And like you said, some things are slipping through.
I mean, you already mentioned that counter pick is the trade-off for having to ban away that Akali every time. But look at the two members that are still up for grabs, Zoom and Yagao. These are the two carry members. These are the two solo lanes, and you can only save counterpick for one.
And this is what I was talking about. Throughout this entire series, JD Gaming have not ran a straight double counter in terms of the jungle and the mid lane. They're going to try for it this draft.
Also, remember, Yasuo is something that should just get banned here by FPX, because if you're holding on to red side Yagao pick, well, I mean, look at the Alistar and look at the Gragas. That's enough to really just say, okay, let's cut it out of the drafting here. So for FPX to just immediately ban Urgot, that's a lot of respect being given to Zoom, maybe too much.
And that's actually what this picture is saying right now. Face the wind. So the fans already know the Yasuo could be a concern here, but also going up onto, actually with the Lulu ban down, I think you're right. There's a very, very high chance of that going down now.
All right, just ban out Yasuo, please. Thank you. And right now with
Running
FPX,
down.
makes a lot of sense.
Both Yagao and Zoom think that they can play it. Would they decide to take this here as the timer runs out, and it is Azir taken away alongside that Urlock. All right, JD, what have you got for us? What's it going to be? Safe and standard with the Rise?
So there are two options here. The Rise can go top lane, and it can really diversify the damage pool that you have, because you have a Tristana bottom lane. Well, you have a Yasuo Tristana, and you have an extra AD. That's not enough AP later on in the game. That's going to be a problem. So I actually expect the Rise to go top lane. Now my expectation here is, what does Cool pick up? Because ordinarily the counter pick into the Yasuo is the Rise, and you can look to gank it quite consistently. I'm thinking that, I mean, I know that the Galio was hovered. I actually like the Galio.
Taking Cool off of a big carry and instead putting him on massive utility that can provide carry benefits. It's a circuitous way, but it sets up FPX in a really big number. Now the Fiora and the Gangplank being hovered. Gimgoon loves his carries,
There we
loves his
go.
fighters up top, and gets a massive signature champion.
Yeah, and here it comes down to the last counter pick. Now, there are a lot of options here. The jungler could still be a potential because Zoom has shown the Gragas into the top side as well. But here is the big question, because what I wanted to see was definitely a stronger presence coming out from Clid. Now, he has been the First Blood King over all
no
this
question.
time.
Look, there's no question it's going to be a Yasuo.
Oh,
we knew it from
locked
first
in.
phase, and we knew they need to just be smart about it, having some extra AP damage, so they had the Rise to maybe fake out Cool. But honestly, FPX recognized that and had picked a composition that does fairly decently versus the Yasuo. So they had been just trying to challenge it, and it's going to be interesting to see if the challenge end up working.
You can see Clid very active and ready for this. He is amped as we run through all of the players. Bit of nerves in the mid lane between Yagao and Cool as both AD carries are ready to get back onto the Rift, but it's all about that Yasuo. Plenty of knockup, plenty of setup, plenty of CC, and plenty of split push.
And this is a Yasuo combination that they have to pull off with a lot of intricacies because there's so many protective abilities coming out from the Kindred and also the Galio that they're going to have to be using the cast in the correct way to probably split the team up before they can really find the Yasuo picks.
And this is once again returns us to looking at that Braum for Crisp. He had a great job denying some of the dives bottom lane, stalling out the bottom tier 1 take, and slowing down JD's early laning phase. But as we get to load onto the Rift, JD, once again, they set themselves up with a carry in the mid lane, a carry in the top lane, a carry in the bottom. But this time they've got a lot better scaling, they've got a lot better snowball if they're able to have a strong laning phase again.
And so I want to see Tristana Alistar. I know that going into this game, I was like, Braum versus Alistar feels very good. You can actually work around that fairly well as the Braum pick. But Tristana Alistar's find the target and just unload. So it's going to be on to the Braum to tag team a little bit more closely with Kai'Sa. If Kai'Sa's left alone for an instant and the headbutt pulverize is enough, then that could change the laning landscape absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen how this trade works. The Tristana can open up on the Kai'Sa, and as Braum is jumping over towards her to increase the resistances, you get a double knockup. So it is a very intricate situation that if you don't play well, Alistar and Tristana could definitely snowball kills on you.
Of course, that laning phase is going to be quite entertaining to watch, but now we're preparing to load onto the Rift for what could be still match point for JD Gaming. A single Nexus explosion is all they need, and they advance to play Edward Gaming in 2 days. But if they lose again and it goes to the match 5, that match point for FPX, we've got to wonder if that momentum will be enough. As we load on, it's JD Gaming versus FunPlus Phoenix. Now, no early flashes being blown by FPX this time. They stay with a defensive line and even going so far as to place an early ward bottom to make sure that there's not going to be any sneaky wraparound invades, just to make sure there isn't any upset this time around.
And so we've seen this kind of composition come through from FPX in the past. I think the most important one was when they went up against TOP 4 series ago. They were able to take that series very quickly, very surprisingly. And it's based off the first kill that comes through. Cole on the Galio was actually incredibly, I would say, aware of his surroundings. Not only being able to take through the mid lane matchup, but roaming to find the picks very closely. So yeah, I know, I mean, he's styling. There's not much he can do. Not a lot of buttons you can press as Galio early on. But I want to see what he can do on this pick in the mid game.
And I just want to see Yagao style him back because he just forced 3 minions missed on Cole's side. He deserves a little bit of retaliation.
Not dropping any emotes, though, as that wave gets missed. And
wow,
there's the trades that we are talking about. Triumph just gives so much sustain whenever the Kai'Sa and the Braum want to try and trade back. And we're even seeing fleet footwork out of Loken, though LWX with his own fleet footwork might have a little bit more difficult of a time triggering it, as Zoom happy to try and control this wave against Gimgoon on that big gangplank.
The top line matchup, we don't get to see a lot of Rise versus GPs.
GP does see Rises.
Yeah, that's true. You don't see a lot of Rises top lane, but it's fairly difficult for the GP just because he can actually be contested in his earlier camp. Barrels, I suppose, throw out a barrel with how far he placed it backwards because he has to actually expend a new barrel to actually get anything across. A trade, farming up CS. This isn't a good matchup for the GP.
So far, he's currently trying to push that wave in as Zoom is unlocking access to more and more spells. So far, he's got the Rune Prison and the Spell Flux, but finally Overcharge picked up. Means that he can start getting some good damage and trades onto the minion wave. And so far, 2 lanes seem to be controlled from JD, mid and bottom. That means Clid leaves top nice and defended with a zombie ward and Tribush as it crashes in, but Alex is going for a full clear and once again gets a bit unlucky with the first Scuttle Crab, and Clid makes his way over towards it.
And with the help of the bot side, he should be able to secure this. However, if you look at this start, I still think it's a much better start for Alex. He knows that most of his lanes are just going to play very passively, so he's went for a full farming route and is already doubling the CS from Clid.
So far 25 to that 16, of course, 4 jungle camps 4 CS score per jungle camp.
But that pressure does pay off around the globe, I suppose. The fact that Alex sure is doing well himself just personally. The issue is Yasuo has been able to farm out, push out repeatedly, so it's not been a good time for Cool. And then top lane, it's actually fairly safe for Zoom, who's been farming fairly well as well. So I'm in a position where, yeah, sure, Gragas in the specific matchup ain't doing too hot, but his adjacent lanes are doing wonderfully.
This is how JD Gaming has really, I felt, outdrafted for the early game. If you think about all 3 of their lanes, they've actually decided the main matchups. They've decided to run Yasuo into the Galio, the Ryze into the Gangplank, and the Tristana into the Kai'Sa. So it should be expected with that draft result for them to have a firm control in the early game, at least in terms of pushing.
And they're also just kind of saying to the enemy team, look how flexible we are. We can actually just put the Ryze in towards the mid lane and go for a basic teamfight comp. Alex opening up now.
Mounting Dread, good headbutt as he runs for the wall, a flash slow. Lumao uses his own, Void Seeker over the wall, but LWX isn't level 6, and seeing that Kindred bottom, immediately Zoom walks up with a big minion wave.
At the very least, Lumao has Hex Flash, so he can look for it aggressively if the setup is there. But blowing Flash just means that if they catch him again, there's no way he gets out.
Things looking a little bit scarier for JD's bottom lane is Cool. He's not level 6, but is feigning towards top. Just in case. Scryer's Bloom to try and force Zoom back, just his mere presence. But Zoom isn't backing away just yet. Blast Cone over the wall. Now Zoom has been spotted. That's the parlay. No one can follow up on this. Room Prison, and Cool decides not to go into Zoom, instead goes sideways to retreat.
I wonder what the comms were like, because Alex was in the area. He'd actually passed topside, so maybe Cool thought that Alex was going to join him. Issue is he was actually too far back, so even if that waited a little bit longer, then Ryze would have gotten a free way out. So just unfortunate there. Cool wasted a lot of time, CS, experience, to make the pressure happen.
That's the Predator. The wave has crashed up. Zoom takes the first hit. Yagao, he's charging up. One more, but that's the hero's entrance. Cannon Barrage and JD are trying to run. Clid gets caught. He's taking aggro. Teleport behind them. That's the shield of Duran. Zoom is low. Goes down. First blood to Crisp, as he says, you have just unbenched this bottom lane.
That was great awareness from the support. I mean, take a look at the play. I think JDG recognized that it was a possibility Cool was going to come in, but they were like, well, I'm Gragas and Yasuo. We're going to get out with the greatest of ease. We're just going to expend so much resources out of FPX, but they didn't expect the teleporting Braum.
Yeah, and so overall, you can see the trades were basically for the top laners, but still heavily favoring Zoom in the matchup. They did force the Gangplank to miss out on a bit of CS.
Ooh. Hex Flash from Lumao. As still, JD know they need to focus on keeping control of this scuttle.
So yeah, just consistent pressure here. I mean, LWX has been under tower for a long time, but take a look at this, because this was a good play from JDG to just at least get GP,
this
pressured.
Was pretty unlucky because Gimgoon hit level 6 during the dive. He actually was 2 minions off, found it, and then got his Cannon Barrage to lock down JD members. So a little bit of a better calculation on the experience points coming out from FPX.
And that experience is starting to open things up a bit, though it does equalize at 1-1. It appears as though Gimgoon has died over the duration of that replay, perhaps, and made his way back up into that top lane.
No, Gimgoon died when Yasuo cut him down.
During the dive,
yeah.
I see. And that is keeping it still in JD's favor. So despite the attempted dive failing, it's still 1,000 gold advantage for JD Gaming. And those lanes aren't changing just off of the kill being traded back by FPX.
That just means that Clid can reassess the situation, doesn't have to go topside again. With how well Loken's been playing out the bottom lane, consistently pushing into the lane, the tower, and just been chipping it out. If I'm Clid, try and lean towards bottom lane a little bit more, contest the Krugs, maybe the next red, but definitely look to try and get that tower down, because freeing up Tristana makes it so pressure around the map is a lot easier. Tower already getting chipped down top lane, so you could change that up. Depends on what he's feeling.
Oh no, I think Wolf just stole away the red buff from Cool.
And look at the CS score right now. Now, Yasuo is supposed to have a slight advantage, but at least Galio should keep the wave push somewhat equal. That blue buff is going to worsen the CS lead coming in for Yagao.
Look, Cool is just simply tilted. Getting into this situation where he's just in a bad matchup, hasn't been farming well, which is incredibly important to hit on. Sure, the passive of Galio makes it difficult, but he's just been a spiraling mental point for him. And then just knowing that he couldn't get the blue buff, because not only was red buff ticking, but Wolf as well, it's just a tough time here for him.
And let's just walk through what really happened to see Cool 40 CS down.
Maybe.
Well, maybe this bot lane fight has to come in first. Gets the stun.
Good chase, lands the Void Seeker to proc Plasma. That's the heal, and still no flash being used. And with all that pressure bottom, Zoom, he's looking to take first brick and still further deny FPX. But still, Cool, unable to follow up on any of those plays.
Just CS advantages across the board for JDG. Yasuo, Zoom, you could say that one point of strength is LWX, but LWX needs to start going fast because right now the rest of his map is falling apart.
And this is going to transfer to item leads pretty soon. Those CS leads are enough to buy major components for your finished items. I want to do a little bit of recap on to Cool. He missed his first 3 minions, had a roam top lane where he didn't find anything, and then once again was called top lane to find the kill, while Yao Gao spent a lot more time in lane.
We talk about Cool being one of the most experienced and veteran mid laners in the entirety of the LPL. He's been here for years with countless organizations. Will FPX be the one that keeps him and is able to fully utilize his talents in the mid lane? Or will they crumble like LGD, Newbie, and OMG before?
To make matters worse, this is going to be a very, very slow mid game for Cool because he did go for the double Darksteel build as well. So in terms of item completion, that puts him even further behind.
Gold-wise, true. At least he can stay in lane a little bit longer is what I like here. And it makes it so FPX has a window, if they were to pick up a fight in the next 3 minutes, that he's at least powerful enough to help.
I wonder if he's still going to go for the ROA that we usually see. Because he's so far behind, he might need to just take it on the chin and go for something else that brings immediate power to the composition.
Well, that immediate power is already delayed. As you said, it is only 1,000 gold, closer to 1,200 now that Yagao was able to push another wave in, but this constant lane pressure in both top, mid, and bottom is starting to crystallize for JD as they're turning onto the Rift Herald.
And I like JD Gaming's focus for the game because if you look at FPX, it's incredibly hard to actually kill LWX. They are running a heal and barrier composition. They know the all-in potential coming in from Loken and Alistar, so they're just making sure he doesn't die. JD Gaming does not try to attack where they're the most defensive and hardest to crack.
I think that's why JDG should just simplify it. Already putting down the Rift Herald in mid lane, I think they should just be around towers, because at this point, you really can't look for a kill on LWX or Crisp, as you already mentioned. Looking topside, they tried that and they got countered. So at this point, towers are really working out well for you, as you can see in the mid lane. They should try that once again.
2 full charges and now a rotation bottom. LWX has to back away, and Loken on this Tristana. BF Sword first, and Rapid Fire trying to break it down, but his team doesn't commit fully, and instead decide to take both the turret and the dragon, which means the wave gets cleared out and delayed a little bit longer. Though it looks like FPX, they've got the opportunity to try to set up a defense here.
Yeah, it definitely gives time for FPX to defend bottom lane, and maybe try for the dragon, because having a Gragas solo the Ocean Dragon is a bit ambitious. It works anyways, but that's because without vision, FPX isn't really able to move in the area.
He does take the dragon, though the bottom tier 1 is still locked down, standing for FPX at so very low health. And with that recall from LWX, he's finished off his Gwynsus, which should help him keep up some wave clear as well. But still, things slowing down a little bit for FPX here.
And I just want to mention the itemization coming out from Galio. The ROA is not going to be taken. It's way too slow of an item in this game state. So he is forced to go more for the Ludens, have that immediate damage, and hope to change things when JD Gaming do try to find their first fight.
Honestly, I would have liked for him to have the Catalyst just for sustaining the lane, but when he head back to base, didn't have enough gold for the Catalyst. I think that was the major issue for him. So at this point in time, at least he has the sustain, the mana coming back to him, but it's just unfortunate for him.
Now Loken completing his own recall, finishes off the Storm Razors, is able to walk a minion wave into the turret faster than LWX can defend. And all 3 outers are now broken down. The laning phase successfully converts into tier 1 turrets. But here's where it's going to start becoming a lot more difficult, because as JD start pushing forward up to the tier 2s, it becomes a lot riskier. Look at that.
They do it.
Alex, he's got, cancels that auto there. He thought about it, but cool. With some stern words, was able to send him back. But JD, they're still pushing up and trying to contest the vision of FPX.
I know Alex was remorseful. I mean, you get into those positions where you take away your mid laner's blue buff. Now you just got to keep it at a higher value and be like, all right, this time you're doing the hard work. I'm sorry, man. Won't happen again.
And this is a big series for Alex as well. Like, on JT back in the LMS, he wasn't really a starting jungle and didn't have a lot of playoff experience. For him to crack out in the new region for him would be absolutely massive, but that also puts that much pressure onto his shoulders to perform.
Now Lumao coming up behind LWX.
A lot of
That's the
people.
Predator as 4 members. The Flash, knock up, and Yagao gets maximum range. Hero's entrance. Lumao uses the Unbreakable. Stun gets denied, but there is a follow-up. Shield of Durand once again onto the support. They're getting the Plasma procs, and they find it. Teleport trying to get zoom in as he follows through, and Yagao finds Alex and demolishes him. Yagao and Zoom split sideways. His Cool gets left behind. Yagao getting away from the stun, but Loken finds a double. Glid has to back away and goes golden to stall this out. But still, it ends up being 1 for 2.
What a back and forth fight, because I thought FPX was winning that. They were in a really good position, but obviously Flash coming through from Alex, and he still had the land for spite. It was just an unfortunate turn of events, because I thought Chris played so well in that fight, blocking out the Clid ultimate once again.
Yeah, it was a really good start of the fight from JD Gaming, but a better answer coming in from Cool at the right time. They had the opportunity to chase and slow the enemy composition, and there was nothing JD Gaming could do. They couldn't fire back because of the Lamb's Respite. Unfortunately, Alex did give them that opportunity, and honestly, that was Gimgoon's work at the very end of the fight that kind of saved it.
So take a look at this, because this was so crucial. Crisp slowing the rest of the members down, and then the door. You already saw it being placed up, so cool, calm. It was well done to be able to turn that fight back, but this is what was important. Alex actually just goes straight for it, following the flash, but he was alone.
And that was the Q3 coming in from Yagao. Cool knows that he has nothing else to do. This looks like a really bad situation, but Gimgoon, fortunately enough, he does kind of slow the situation down, gets a triple barrel to stop the chase from JD Gaming. So overall, they only lose the tower, and I believe 1 extra kill for that.
But a lesson that was learned here immediately was just the fact that wait until the Braum door goes in.
We were just talking about Alex needing to perform on this team, and perhaps that weight affecting his decision to try and go in, as you said, hit the 3rd tick of mounting Dread for the burst. It got close, but it wasn't enough, and he ended up paying the iron price and heading back to base with that death stacked into the column. But now, he's surely going to have learned his lesson. I mean, it's going to be much more difficult to flash forward without the flash, but he saw the window, and it ended up paying death for it.
I think here's the thing for Alex, is that in that situation, he just needs to be able to press ult to be a little bit more quickly, because that's actually happening far too often for people who are playing on Kindred recently, especially in a playoff situation where there's a lot more pressure underneath you, that you're kind of either overthinking a situation or you're just focusing on one point way too much. Clid,
There's
looking
no door.
for a flank.
He does have his ultimate, but decides not to throw the cask as Loken is able to bait out Crisp's wall. And still strong lanes from JD. They're up now 5,000 gold. Slight item advantages. We're seeing a big advantage, of course, in that mid lane and in the top lane. In the bottom, though, it's still pretty close to even between LWX and Loken.
Yeah, I think that FPX, at the very least right now, are comfortable in the situation clearing out waves, knowing that they can give away the dragons. First one was Ocean, sure. Next one's going to be Cloud. JDG are not really getting as much as they can here.
But the big thing is that they do have to rise, and when you have map control and a rise together, if they can keep these lanes shoved in like that, that's an instant Baron. So there's a very big play coming from JD Gaming right on the horizon. And I feel like they're willing to play a little bit slower in these couple of minutes.
They're already pushing up to the tier 2s with the bottom one broken off of that previous fight. Loken, every single wave, it's another explosive shot. It gets lower and lower until finally it breaks down. 5 turrets to 0.
Leveling up, getting more in terms of draw of the bead passive for Loken, and the next buy should be I would say rapid fire cannon. So then that's a real worry, because while it was easy for FPX to start wave clearing and pushing Loken off the tower and having to force Clit to throw out an ultimate as a defensive mechanism, issue is you can't stop him once he ends up getting that purchase. So that's going to be an issue for FPX. They're going to have to start forcing a flank or forcing these fights around Galio.
And I want to see JD Gaming, if they can pull off the correct combo in the next team fight, they have a chance to use the Tristana ultimate Buster Shot, knock Braum away, and then throw in the cask. That would be incredibly cool to watch, and it would break open a lot of what Braum and Kindred are supposed to do on this composition.
That's the small micro interaction that we're expecting out of JD Gaming if they want to open this up. But still, there are still plenty of other ways for them to open the game, as it's 5 turrets to 0. Top tier 2 still standing, but with this recall, there's the Sterix Gauge finished on Yagao. Rapid Fire Cannon finished on Loken. You already mentioned the synergy with that draw bead. We're still looking at item number 2 for Zoom, which is why he's still clearing out these jungle minions and looking to keep Gingoon busy. But Baron is up in 30 seconds, and already JD are claiming control over the waves, and by proxy, the Baron.
Yep, it's all coming together for JD. So they want to force something topside now. You can already see the control wards being placed down. There's a lot of control wards in their own inventories based off the last back. So this is when JD is the most powerful. It's going to be an FPX to find something to come back into it.
They know that this is the push that could win them the game. They brought 8 control wards all to bear onto the top side of the map just to secure that. All they need right now is pretty much for Zoom, for his teleport to walk up, or for him to just travel towards the mid side.
Nearly has it. Only a few seconds left before it's back up. Of course, Gingoons is synchronized with that. And FPX, with that Akathi and Rain, are moving back and forth to keep on dodging in and out of the vision. Already, the Baron is completely invisible for FPX, but as long as they see JD grouped up, they know that it's not happening. They're trying to lunge forward for some vision now.
Yeah, a reality for FPX is if they get pushed into their inhibitor, then it's almost impossible for them to get the Baron. Clid, this is actually really threatening. The fact that they have this much control around the blue side. Clid can just say, you know what, we're not even touching Baron. Let's just look for a cask.
There's the knock up onto Cool, but no follow. It's only 6 auto attacks from this turret to break it down. The minion wave gets cleared out. Loken's going to stay and finish it off with Lumao tanking. And all tier 2s are gone. It's 6 turrets to 0, a 7,000 gold advantage for JD. And they have got complete control over the lanes, over the jungle, over the Baron.
It's a simple road here for now, JDG. Push mid and top lane, and then you can try around Baron, which hasn't been warded by FPX for a better part of like the 5 minutes. So with no vision whatsoever, FPX are going to have to play around topside so heavily. So now Rise has, I say, full ownership of just pushing bottom lane and forcing GP to help them.
It's a very crucial back coming in from Yagao. I wonder if he will have enough gold for going for an extra stopwatch, but does have the completed Berserkers and the BF sword instead. A lot of times when we go into these single Baron fights that could determine the game, extra stopwatches are a lot of times a pretty good idea because they give you so much time to survive in the enemy composition for a diver like Yagao.
I mean, it's like a new ability being added to the kit of already 4 abilities plus 2 summoner spells. Suddenly you go from 6 buttons you can push to 7 to activate more outplay opportunities in these fights. Doesn't have that though. Looking for the damage instead. So as you said with the items earlier, JD, they know if they win a fight, they could end the game.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, having more damage makes it so the earlier fight, they still have to play around Clid. I think that's what that means now. Clid has to be the one that starts out the fight. So let's say Yagao not having the stopwatch instead of having a BF sword means that if he throws out Q, he's going to wait a little bit longer for Gragas to start the fight. So it's going to be on Clid. Responsibility is on him, his head, to see if the pressure is there to start the fight with his own cask.
That's
wait a second.
Onto the Baron. That's the play we were talking about. And look at the vision from FPX. They don't see it. That's blue trinket. They now spot it, but it's already down to about half health. They're still staying for just a bit longer. Yagao with the knock-up. Finds Alex, but just stalls him. 4,000 health. Teleport coming in, plus the cannon barrage. Yagao's into the pit. Cool. Looking for the shield of Duran. Lumao on the side, but Baron picked up by JD. Lumao is split. That's the door knockback you were talking about. But Zoom and Yagao, the Dumpling brothers, are split away from their other members as Lumao is dead. Cool, trying to chase.
You have to get out of here.
Flash, but doesn't take it over the wall. And JD take the Baron, lose a member, but walk away.
The setup was strong enough for JD to get the Baron and get out of there. They thought they were playing around a possibility of a team fight, but the moment that it seemed too risky, they just took the Baron buffs and headed home. So there we go, FPX in even worse position.
And I really like the setup coming out from JD Gaming as well. Now, in Spring Split, they lost the most Barons, but in this fight, they actually had Alistar go up very far ahead and try to cut off Alex's path from behind. Now, this move was actually quite critical to assure that there was going to be no chance of a steal, no Lamb's Respite to extend the fight going forward.
No auto attack to follow up and get the kill onto Alex too, so just using the ultimate to push him back. Good timing on Chris to send out the door, so that's what I like to see. But once again, the true support Lumao, getting everything, sacrificing everything for the Baron buff.
And this nearly looks like the style of JD in Game 1, moving as a team, moving as a collective unit, as opposed to 5 players on the same side. This communication, they do lose Lumao, but now he's back on the map, and they're starting to push up towards the inhibitor turrets as all 3 outers are down. This 1-3-1 is going to be brutal.
Now, FPX still have a lot of damage on their composition.
Ooh,
They could
that
find
was
a
the
pick.
snare, and LWX goes in, the shotgun fires, and Yagao just flashes away. He wants nothing to do with it, but that means Zoom is free to push in bottom.
Trying for anything. They see him so desperate at this point, and they're playing right in Zoom's hand.
Now they're pushing up. This is a collapse into the mid lane. A good cask separates Alex and Cool end to the back. And that's an engage onto the front, but there's no follow-up because the carries are trying to defend. Clid will actually die, though, as Lumao is tanking the turret. Wind wall to soak some of these hits, but LWX does damage.
A hero play from Chris will at least stop them from taking 2 inhibitors, I believe. And they are sitting at a 5v4 situation. JD Gaming probably need to call this off.
They have to do something.
Is going to get Cool back out onto the map. With the base defense speed, he's able to step back forward, and as you said, only 1 inhibitor taken, though. Mountain is up, and JD are on their way to the pit.
There we go. I mean, maybe JD can reconvene, come back. I think looking towards the top lane would be a lot better for them, because right now Rise is actually setting up so much pressure. They had to do a lot to actually push him off. There was no answer to Zoom. They're doing a lot to make plays happen top lane, and then of course Yagao got out. Go towards the mid lane, and it took the teleport to really force JD's hand. So right now there's just so much pressure in a split push scenario that I don't know what FPX can do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Cool did expend his teleport right there. They're still going to look for a top lane. The teleport expended is quite important because it means that FPX doesn't have a chance to wrap around JD Gaming before they can go into a siege mode. That's what you would try to look for if you have enough damage still left on your composition.
Now that teleport is on Zoom. He's level 16 with the Realm Warp at level 2, so he's got some pretty big range. And still the Baron for 20 seconds, but Cannon Barrage, they're going to try and force the fight, and this could be the teleport costing them as Alex starts the fight in the front. Again, Lumao's the target. Zoom finally joins in, but the wind wall resets, it cools the target. Stopwatch slows him down. Clid eats a stun, and he drops, but so too does Cool. Knock up onto Yagao, but he gets in! A 3-man last breath. I don't know how he finds it, but he does, and Loken chases it down, finds the double, and that's JD getting the ace against the odds.
Hero mode coming in from Yagao, because that was a back and forth fight. It was a good look to try and cut out Zoom, who wasn't in the fight, but you have to play it slow, play it ready for Yagao to pop out.
That fight started out as a 5v3 for FPX. They did find the first 2 targets, but getting into that corridor meant that Yagao could make maximum use of his crowd control potential, gets onto all 3 carries, and Loken and Zoom have enough damage to finish it out.
Yeah, 10 seconds left on the clock. Crisp is back up, but JD are turning on to the Nexus. And with a 3-1 victory, they close it out, taking the series and advancing to quarters.
There was still fight in FPX, but JDG finished strongly. And it's a strong message to send to the people on the rest of the bracket. Now they have to go up against EDG, and EDG's watching this, knowing that in 2 days' time, that's their opponent. It's a tough call for them.
And definitely EDG, again, another blue side focused team. I love the draft coming out from JDG. I felt like they used their counter picks, their flex picks to the absolute maximum. It was smooth sailing from the laning phase all the way to the finish.
As Zoom shakes hands with Gimgoons and the JD players make their way to the front of the stage, they get to take a bow in front of the Beijing fans.
And this is going to be their home arena as well in 2009. Probably not home arena, but their home city in 2019 as well. What a good impression that they're leaving for their potential fans in the future.
And FPX end their 2018 year eliminated from playoffs and eliminated from Worlds contention at 0 championship points. There is no way for them to make it into Worlds this year. But JD, on your screen, now at 10 points in the standings. One more victory, and they enter the race, clean and clear, ahead of their opponents. This is the team that we've been talking. Can they challenge the Big Four, the Rogue Warriors, IG, EDG of the LPL? Can they put a dent in this?
This is a pressure situation for them, you're right. I mean, these questions we've been asking them throughout the regular season. They can do it in the regular season. And they can do it just based off the individual talent that Yagao and Loken, we've seen them in this game. But they've been able to do this throughout the split, throughout the year, honestly. But we don't know what happens when it comes playoff time. Fun thing about RNG, they're on the opposite side of the bracket, is that they have playoff players. And they're going to be going up against EDG when Scout comes in playoff time. Yagao versus Scout worked out well for Yagao in the regular season, but in a playoff setting, Scout comes strongly.
The EDG playoff buff is absolutely real, but 27-minute straight linear victory. Something that I actually want to discuss that came to me over the course of the series is JD is a team that doesn't seem to be affected by momentum, good or bad. Every single one of their games seems to be its own microcosm, its own unit in and of itself over the course of a series. Majority of them have been wins, obviously, by making it this far into playoffs, but this is a team that even when the odds are down and against them, they're able to come into the next game, completely reset their mentality, and reset the series.
Yeah, and if you look at the team in general, they're a bunch of big, burly guys. They're very resilient, and their team atmosphere is amazing. Going to their base, they're all laughing about each other's weight. They have Lumo as the main shot caller and the captain, keeping everyone in line. And I love their mentality. Fight, fight, fight. Be willing to take risks.
And also remember the biggest difference between spring split and the summer split is just the stronger coaching staff. Bringing coach home. So in between games, they lost one game. They came back stronger. I felt the draft was as consistent as it was in the previous game. And also the mentality that they had was just unaffected. So you're right about that. I think the players are something you can definitely call out. Young players still have a lot to learn. And I feel like Coach Home is giving them a lot.
Yeah, and again, this is the same Coach Ohm that took Team WE to the World Semifinals last year. So very prestigious coach for them to provide this momentum towards them, and very talented players to capitalize on this coaching staff, because we saw Zoom with a huge advantage over Gimgoon, who we consistently laud as one of the best top laners in the league, though the stats might not always show it. Zoom made him look mediocre at best.
Yeah. That was just the matchup and the additional jungle pressure thrown into the top side. I do want to point out on the coaching side, they do also have their old coach, UDJ, back onto the roster on loan, coming in from LGD. So a person that knows them really well and a person that has shown great success at Worlds. A great coaching staff combined.
So there we have it. I feel like JDG as a team, coaching staff is incredibly strong. And then you look towards FPX, and they were still actually figuring that one out because they had to make that change between Hachani to now Mingja, who was the former coach of OMG, rather late into the split. So that's an unfortunate side for them. But, I mean, they have to learn that lesson going into 2019.
Yeah, well, now they've got some time to try and do that. Our MVP for that victory, though, will be Loken off of his Tristana performance. A strong laning phase and the team fight at the end. All it took was a little bit of setup, and Loken is happy to smack it down, getting both MVP victories for JD Gaming.
And we've seen the way that Loken team fights. He's very safe, but at the very end, when he sees the opportunity, when his front line can't take anymore, he does jump in, he does finish the fights off very, very well. 30.9% of the damage, a great number, and 8.16, this is looking great for him with more Tristana around.
100%, I agree. And I think that for JDG, their story has been, yeah, they have great players. Loken should be top of the bracket as an AD carry, and the same thing goes for Yagao. But when there are people out there that second guess that challenge that, the big question that comes down to them is that, yeah, but they haven't been to playoffs. In a pressure situation, Loken in the spring split was trading positions quite heavily with RD, but now this is the moment where he has to come in strong. Versus FPX, great, you did the job, but now the next few opponents, if they can get past the next one, is what makes your career. So for Loken, MVP versus this one, but they remember the next one going up against Edward Gaming.
Yeah, it certainly will be remembered. Now, gentlemen, I just want to point out, both of you got your predictions correct at a 3-1 series victory. Real quick, let me grab my notes.
Yep.
Do you guys, can you think of like 5 or 6 numbers, 1 to 100? I'm looking at Powerball
97.
later. 97, all right. What else are we looking
97.
at? 97 and 97.
Why do you have the same number?
Okay.
It has to be right. If
Gotta
what's
be the
different,
same
someone's
one.
wrong, and we both got it right.
else
What
do
are
we
you
got?
talking
Give me
about?
some more numbers here.
87.
87,
1992, that's my birth year.
19,
He
and
said 1 to
92. That's good. One more. I split it into 2. One more number.
6.
6. 0, 6. Excellent.
Perfect.
Well, now you guys know which lottery numbers to run for. I don't know if there actually are 5 numbers,
right.
but an excellent prediction in this series because JD, take the win.
I'm 100% right now. I predicted
All right,
yesterday's
all right.
games, 5 games, TOP win, today 3-1. So if you have
But
any questions
no.
for those, you come to me, okay?
Seriously though, while this
Yeah.
series, it makes a lot of sense. Our fans' expectation was going to be JDG were coming through.
Yeah.
I think what makes it even more unpredictable, and I will never make, I mean, I'm forced to make a prediction on the next series, but I feel like I will 100% be wrong. Going up against tomorrow, EDG, that's going to be incredible. That's going to be a series that people will be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, and of course that's going to be happening in 2 days. Our matchup
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tomorrow is the rivalry, the return, TOP versus RNG.
What the hell?
As Korn gets to play against his former organization.
And even though Uzi hasn't won Worlds, it's so fitting to put the crown on him right now because he's already won every single tournament, won the championship for every single tournament he's participated in 2018. So there's incredible momentum going in for RNG. Everyone's looking for it, but can TOP upset that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Remember, he's a crown king because he got all those championships. And why not put a gold medal if we're just swagging him up? Wait a minute, the man came back a gold medalist. But you're right. Now, going up against his former teammate in Korn, someone who's playing up, I feel like that's going to be an incredible story to see tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that TOP are playing up, finding their momentum in that last swing to advance to this game means it's going to be a fun matchup all across the board. Let's take a look at the championship points so that we can see how things are starting to look.
Goodbye,
as we
Snake.
get a little bit closer, Snake are eliminated from the bracket, and your eyes do not deceive you. These are the remaining 6 contenders, 14 teams entered, and these 6 are the last standing.
And the question for me really is, can JD Gaming actually leapfrog over EDG in terms of points if they actually take the series? Unfortunately, the answer should be no. So they're still going to be looking for the first qualification, just taking it to the championship or the qualifier.
And of course, the 4 teams that are ahead of you that you can see, RNG, Rogue Warriors, EDG, and IG, the teams that are actually in the most trouble when it comes to points is Invictus Gaming. Invictus Gaming need to be able to get in the finals the most out of all of these teams because they finished 4th place in the spring split. So while everyone is putting in their faith behind them because they are the strongest regular season team in both spring and summer, they need to perform now in the the semifinals. So that's going to be in some time. We'll have to see if that works out for them. But congratulations to JD, now penetrating the top 6.
And of course, it should be mentioned again, it's the top 5 of those 6 are the ones that matter.
That's true.
Winner goes to finals, second
Point
place
leader.
is off of points, and then the remaining 3 play it out throughout the rest of the promotion tournament to close out and take that final world spot. But gentlemen, that wraps it up for us for today. With that JD Gaming victory, they advance to play EDG in 2 days. We're going to take a break while we get ready for that match tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of myself and all my casters and the whole production crew, we'll see you then.